From a mysterious wall in New Zealand that appears to have been carved by human hands hundreds of thousands of years ago, to Neolithic inscriptions on a mountain in Sri Lanka that baffle even the most seasoned rock art experts, including a granite box in Egypt that defies all known laws of ancient engineering, and a hand-carved underground church in the heart of France. These are the 11 extraordinary ancient technologies that really exist. The Kamanawa Wall in New Zealand has all the telltale signs of being made by human hands. Found in the Kamanawa forest, close to the country's Lake Tauko, it appears to have been made from a series of rectangular rocks with the symmetrical gaps and lines between the rocks showing the spaces where one block ends and the other begins. The method of construction looks similar to the Ahu stone platforms on Easter Island. It may therefore surprise you to learn that the official story about this wall is that it was created by nature, not by human intervention. In fact, the idea of human beings building this wall is absurd. Scientists say that these stones have been standing in their current position for more than 300,000 years. They try to explain away the cracks and lines by saying that they occurred as the rock cooled after it was formed. But would such a process result in such regular, symmetrical cracks? Why would the stones all be so rectangular in shape? Some locals insist that the wall was built by the Te Wataha tribe before the arrival of the Maoris on New Zealand. But even the existence of that tribe is debated by the Maoris, who claim to have been the first human settlers on New Zealand when they arrived 8 centuries ago. In Sri Lanka, there's a mountain that's covered in caves, and inside those caves are ancient carvings and inscriptions that are so mysterious and bewildering that the entire site has been nicknamed Alien Mountain. In reality, though, these inscriptions weren't left behind by visiting extraterrestrials. They're a set of Neolithic petroglyphs, and as far as anybody knows, they're the only Neolithic petroglyphs in all of Sri Lanka. The marks are thought to have been carved into the rocks somewhere around 125,000 years ago. The correct name for the mountain is Donegala Circular Rock, which is in the country's Palanarua district. It's a hotspot for UFO sightings, although most of those sightings have only been reported since the Alien Mountain nickname was given to the imposing geological feature. There are too many petroglyphs here to try to make any sense out of them as a complete work, but they include depictions of humans, dogs, arrows, peacocks, plants, and what appear to be ladders. Some of the glyphs are connected together, becoming what are known as bind runes, the meaning of which is unknown. We could easily spend the rest of this video talking about the mysteries of ancient Egyptian technology, but we want to focus on a single example of it. If you follow the River Nile into the south of Egypt, you'll eventually come to an island called Elephantine Island. Almost the entire island is an active archaeology site, but the most fascinating and bizarre structure there is a stone box made of solid granite. It's symmetrical and polished to a smooth finish. Anyone who's ever worked with stone knows that granite is one of the most difficult materials to work with because of how hard it is. We're supposed to believe that the ancient Egyptians, working well over 4,000 years ago, carved and shaped this box using nothing more than the bronze hand tools we know they had at their disposal at the time? Bronze, for the avoidance of doubt, is softer than granite. If you tried to cut granite with bronze, the bronze would give way before the granite did. How then can the Egyptians possibly have carved the mysterious granite box of Elephantine Island? The only logical answer seems to be that they had access to a higher form of technology that we're unaware of. Now we're heading to France to show you an incredible underground church. Building a church underground is far harder than building one above the ground for obvious reasons, but perhaps ancient builders saw working on such a project as the ultimate demonstration of their faith. Whatever the reason, their work led to the creation of the underground church of Saint Jean, which is in Aubitiere-sur-Dronne. It's the largest underground church in all of Europe. Scientists and archaeologists tell us that the whole church was carved by hand into a solid rock hillside during the 12th century. The style of the church is a little rustic, which is understandable given the methods used to create it, but the scale is impressive. Its main room contains two enormous columns supporting a 60-foot-high ceiling, and a hand-carved stairway allows visitors to climb the entire back wall and claim a stunning bird's-eye view of the site from above. Experts think that the church was originally built as a semi-secret hiding place for important religious artifacts. The Roman reliquary in the largest side room is said to be a relic of the First Crusade, and the 80 sarcophagi in the other side room are said to contain the remains of saints and martyrs. Both claims are impossible to prove. Let's keep up with the theme of ancient technological achievements carved from stone. Next up, we have the Gal Vihara, which is sometimes also known as the Uttara Rama. It's a massive rock temple of the Buddha, and you'll find it in the ancient Sri Lankan city of Palanarua. Historical records indicate that it was carved during the time of Parakrambabhu I during the 12th century. At the heart of this colossal creation, which is both a place of worship and a work of art, are 4 rock relief statues of the Buddha himself, carved directly into the face of a granite gneiss rod. The temple also features an artificial cave within which you'll find a statue of a large seated figure, the identity of which is unknown. There's a smaller seated figure and a reclining figure, both of whom are also unknown, but aren't thought to be representations of the Buddha. They are, however, considered to be the best surviving examples of ancient Sinhalese sculpting in the world. Parakrambabhu I once called a congregation of monks to this location to purify the Buddhist priesthood, after which he drew up a new code of conduct for them. All of this is recorded in inscriptions that can still be read at the site. Speaking of massive monoliths, let's take a look at the Western Stone. There's a clue to its location in its name. It's a stone ashlar block that forms a key part of the lower level of the Western Wall in Jerusalem. It's the single largest stone in the Western Wall tunnel and also one of the largest building blocks of any description in the world. The exposed face of the Western Stone is 44 feet long and 11 feet high, or 13 meters long and 3 meters high. It's impossible to work out how wide or deep it is because it's buried in the wall. A study carried out in 2006 suggested that it could be 8 feet deep, but the findings can't be verified. If the projected measurement is correct, the stone must weigh around 300 tons. There's a great deal we don't know about the Western Wall and the stones that were cut to build it, but it's fair to assume that it was created during the Herodian Age, which would make it a touch over 2,000 years old. Finding out anything more about it is almost impossible because of the strict rules that cover archaeological activity in and around the wall. The town of Arwad can be found on an island also called Arwad in the Mediterranean Sea. It's the only inhabited island in the region, and it's also home to a wall that's been described as a true wonder of ancient engineering. This is the ancient megalithic wall of Arwad, also known as the Wall of Aretus and the Wall of Ruad. There isn't much left of it today, but archaeological evidence suggests that thousands of years ago, the wall encompassed the whole island, which today belongs to Syria. The history of the island is uncertain and steeped in mystery, but archaeologists say that the evidence suggests it was first settled by the Phoenicians around 4,000 years ago, after which it rose to become an independent kingdom called Arwad Aretus. At one point, it was the only republic in the Levant ruled by its people rather than a monarch. The wall was and still is an incredible example of Cyclopean architecture, but we have no idea how it was built. Making and transporting the stones would have been difficult, but stacking them like this ought to have been impossible for the people of the time. During a drought in 2014, Poyang Lake in the central Chinese province of Shaanxi dried up for the first time in centuries. When it did, it revealed the presence of a granite footbridge that nobody even knew was there. The granite footbridge is thought to have been built during the country's Ming Dynasty era nearly 400 years ago. That makes its length all the more impressive. With a length of 2,930 meters, or 1.8 miles if you prefer to measure things that way, this is the longest lake bridge in China. Historians and archaeologists in the country have nicknamed it Thousand Eye Bridge because of the 1,100 holes along its length. Records suggest that it was built by order of the Chongshan Emperor in 1631, but that hasn't been conclusively proven. One possible explanation for the fact that the enormous bridge went on to be forgotten by history is that the lake is thought to be haunted. It's often compared to the Bermuda Triangle because of the sheer volume of ships that have vanished in its waters. Perhaps the bridge became part of the myth, and the people of the time decided it was better to drown it and forget about it. Who or what created the features known as the San Paul Tartarga cart cuts in the Maltese archipelago? These deep grooves, which crisscross the land at the sites of Talawamu and Misragar el Kabir, have been created in solid bedrock and yet are almost certainly artificial in origin. In one particular location, they form such a recognizable artificial pattern that they've been compared to the meeting point between the train lines at Clapham Junction in London, England. We know of no natural phenomenon that would create marks like this, but we can't think of a good explanation of how ancient humans could do this either. They're known as cart ruts because they look like they were left behind by carts as they were dragged through the region. But no cart could ever leave behind such wounds in solid rock. If they're not cart ruts, they must have served some other purposes. It's been theorized that they could have been created for irrigation or perhaps as pathways to important ceremonial places. But neither theory can be proven. We have no doubt that humans made these marks many thousands of years ago, but we have no idea how or why. Our next example of ancient technology isn't one that can be found at a single location, but is instead one that can be observed in multiple places around the world. We're talking about the quarry marks left behind when the ancient world's megalithic builders split quartz. In order to break granite apart, these ancient workers chiseled out a series of small holes, filled them with wood fibers, then poured water over the wood. The wood expanded when it got wet and split the stone, leaving behind the quarry marks as proof of the process. Examples of this can be seen in stones at Cusco and Machu Picchu in South America and across the Chilcas region of Mendoza in Argentina. The funny thing is, you'll also find the same marks right across Egypt, in places like Aswan and even in Menkare's pyramid in Giza. There are even examples of the same technique being used on the stones of Karnak in France and Castle Ruttery in Ireland. Are we to believe that all of these ancient civilizations, many of whom had no contact with each other at this point in history, all hit upon the same specific and complex method of cutting granite at the same time? Or is there an ancient technological missing link? If you've ever seen the popular science fiction TV show Stargate, or the movie that inspired the series, you might find this next discovery somewhat familiar. It looks almost exactly like the dial-home device that's used in the show, but it was created hundreds of years ago at the site of Sahara Sling in Karnataka, India. Nobody knows for sure who made these strange impressions in the rock or what they used them for, but they were forgotten about for centuries until they were found by chance as the local authorities decided to drain a local reservoir. The carvings and markings were hiding beneath the water. Some of the inscriptions on the surrounding rocks might be able to explain the purpose of the markings, but sadly, the water has weathered them so severely that they can't be deciphered or understood. What's obvious is that the marks were made using a type of advanced rock-cutting technique that should have been impossible for people living several centuries ago. It's an amazing archaeological site and one that defies all attempts to explain it. Subscribe now and turn on the bell so you don't miss a thing. Fascinating discoveries await you in every video. Thanks for your support. See you soon.